What's up, you guys? Rex here. So story time today about when I ran a half marathon with zero training, and I also did a backflip across the finish line. But more importantly, I want to talk about why I think it's really important to deliberately do things that are hard just for the sake of them being hard. If you want to see the video of me actually doing a backflip across the finish line, make sure you stay tuned for the end. I'll be showing that video. But first, just a little story time of me running a half marathon without training. So this was 3 summers ago. I was going up to Michigan for my family's family reunion, and I just sort of found out 2 days before that my one cousin and another cousin of mine were running this half marathon. The last time I would have ran would have been September in preseason for wrestling training. So that would have been like 10 months beforehand was the last time I ran. And I was like, hey, they're doing it. Might as well sign up. Why the heck not? And so I signed up then the day before. I went and bought shoes the day before, and I ran the half marathon. And so I'm thankful that I was in good enough shape that it wasn't the worst thing I've ever done. But I hate running. Running's not fun whatsoever. I wasn't doing it because it was fun. I was doing it for the experience and doing it just because it was hard and a cool story to tell. And it'd be a really good experience to have. So I ran the half marathon, and really it wasn't that bad, all things considered. That I'm used to running in like hills in North Carolina when it's really hot. It was a really nice thing that it started off early, and it was like 55 when it started. It was mostly in the shade. It was flat, and I was getting water breaks every like mile. I've never had that when I run. It's like was almost enjoyable for part of it, but by the end of it I was hurting. But I ran like 50 feet behind my cousin the whole time. We weren't running fast by any means. It was like 9-10 pace or something like that. But just to prove a point, I like sprinted past my cousin in the last 50 meters, did a backflip across the finish line because I could. And I actually thought I beat her by, like 4 seconds to have a safe margin, but I guess I must have started earlier than her. And like the actual time, I beat her by like a quarter of a second. So I can say, cousin of mine, I beat you on that one. But thanks for inspiring me to do it. So it was a fun story, and now I can make a video of it. So stay tuned to the end if you want to see that video. So more important than the actual story of running the half marathon, which I did, I think is the 3 reasons why I think you should go out of your way sometimes to do hard things just for the sake of them being hard. So the first reason is that like ordinary people, they avoid what's hard. But a lot of being great is doing the hard things other people don't want to do. And that by getting used to doing hard things voluntarily and doing these extreme things, and it's easy to think of like athletically related things, that it would be really hard to run a half marathon without training. It'd be a lot, like 10x as hard to run a full marathon without training. But it's really hard to run like any race for some people, or it's really hard to all of a sudden say, I'm going to go do a 100-mile bike ride today, or I'm going to go swim 2 miles, or I'm going to do some extreme push-up contest with someone, whatever it is. But it doesn't have to be athletically related. It could be spur of the moment, staying up all night with a friend just because they need you to be there for them. Like it's hard to stay up all night, and then it's hard to live through the next day. Or just spur of the moment driving 23 hours straight. Like sitting in a car for 23 hours, that's not a fun time. That's hard. But sometimes it's worth doing it just for the sake of doing it, besides whatever reason you might have to be driving cross country. Or it could be as silly as doing some crazy hot wings challenge, whatever it is. But the point is, by going out of your way to do things that are really hard, you're training yourself to not shy away from things that are really hard. Because inevitably, life is going to get hard whether you want it to or not. Whether that is something school related and studying, and you have to, against your will, pull an all-nighter to study for an exam, or you need to have some really hard conversation with a friend or a boyfriend or girlfriend, or you're going through something difficult with your parents, whatever it is. By practicing going through hard things, you're going to make it easier on yourself and make it less likely that you shy away from what's difficult, and you're going to run head first into these challenges in life and be able to handle them better. And I love the quote from Will Durant: "We are what we repeatedly do. Greatness, then, is not an act, but a habit." And so my second reason is that a lot of times life is just about experiences, and it's really about experience what it is to be most human. And a lot of that, in my opinion, is experiencing some of those extremes of emotion, whether that is extreme happiness or sadness or joy and laughter or something that's just really hard. And I promise you that when you do these really hard things, those are going to be something that you always remember. I will always remember running that half marathon without training for it. And because of that, I remember so much more of that whole weekend that was a family reunion. And it helps me look back on that summer with fond memories. And I promise that even though hard things suck in the moment, the way we work is you always look back on it and have more fond memories of it than in what it was like actually going through it. And so I promise it'll make your life more fulfilling, even if it sucks in the moment, doing things that are really hard, because it's fun to look back on them. And the third reason is sort of silly, but I'll do stuff like this just because it gives me an interesting story to tell, that it makes you more interesting at dinner parties someday. And I like that. I've done a lot of stuff like that. Like, I pick up hitchhikers, and that's part of that is obviously to like do a good deed, and I want to help these people that are walking on the side of the road. But most people will tell you that, like, oh my goodness, like, that's really dangerous, never pick up hitchhikers. But like, that's a super interesting story. I can always tell. I can always break that out. I've got like 3 go-to stories that are just awesome stories as a result of picking up hitchhikers. But I also have stories related to just doing things that are really hard, such as running a half marathon without training. I can break out that story. It's interesting to tell. Makes you more interesting. Makes me more interesting, hopefully. So if you want to hear more of these ramblings, be sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, I'd love to hear them down below. I'll read and respond to every single comment. As always, like the video if you like the video, dislike the video if you dislike the video. As always, don't be ordinary, go be great. All right, now here's the video of me doing the backflip if you were curious. Roll clip.
Aaron King, Cadillac, 10K. Robert Herman, Traverse City, half marathon. Phil Duckbridge from Toledo in the 15. Baru Kishbal, Anderson, Indiana. From Toledo in the